So welcome everybody. Again, I am Jamie Self. I'm the managing editor for inewsource, and this is of course the illustratus, Steve Breen, our editorial cartoonist and illustrator. And welcome to the second edition of the quarterly, Dig This series. We see this as an opportunity for you to learn about inewsource if you don't know about us, and it's an opportunity for us to share with you what our newsroom has been up to. So thank you so much for joining us today and being a supporter of inewsource. So moving forward here, let's see, we're calling this inewsource investigates fentanyl and its impact on San Diego. Our mission, we're a nonprofit, nonpartisan newsroom in San Diego, covering San Diego and the Imperial County region. And we do this through impactful, data-based, investigative, and accountability journalism. We've been doing this for 15 years. We just hit our 15-year anniversary, so that was a big celebration for us. We produce our stories for the web, our social media platforms, and sometimes for radio and TV through our public media partnerships. And these partnerships allow us to reach a much broader audience in our coverage area. We are also home to the San Diego Documenters, which is an incredible program that trains and pays community members to attend public meetings to document the decisions that elected officials are making that impact our lives. So having positive impact with us is our gold standard. It's what we value more than anything else here at inewsource, and that's whether it's our investigative reporting leading to changes in law or exposing corruption, or our hyper-local reporting that's done in partnership with the Documenters, holding public officials accountable and informing the public about issues that matter to them. So we actually had some really great news that we announced today. We won a National First Amendment Coalition Award for a project on illegal rent increases.
Yes.
Yeah,
Nice.
very exciting. That project resulted in housing agencies across the county adopting policies to ensure that low-income tenants are being protected from unlawful rent increases. But this evening, if I'm reading off of a script for a minute, that's because I'm reading off of a script for a minute. So please forgive me. This evening, we'll talk about another exciting development in the way we do our work here at inewsource, and that is the amazing visual journalism that Steve does, and specifically his project, Fentanyl, A Decade of Death. The project combines a graphic novel style approach to storytelling with illustrated reporting. It was a huge undertaking requiring original reporting that happened over months, right?
Months.
A lot of community outreach and many hours of drawing. And it also shows our commitment to finding engaging ways to reach new audiences. Also very excited to have Tim Lemkuhl, whose journey of surviving a fentanyl overdose is one that Steve features in his project. So we'll hear from Tim a little later and really thank him for joining us this evening. So before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping notes. The webinar will be 1 hour. We'll wrap up promptly at 7. You can ask us questions, and please do use the chat. We'll be answering questions. We'll try to answer questions throughout the webinar, but we'll also dedicate some time at the end for a Q&A. And if you have a technical question, please go into the chat and use the down caret to find Will Ackerman. He's our philanthropy coordinator, and he can help you figure out any tech issues that you're having. Cool. All right. Here are some very long bios of Steve and me, and I'll invite you to go to the inewsource website and read more about us. Again, I'm the managing editor. I run the newsroom operation and strategy, and Steve is our cartoonist, and his reputation precedes him. So
Thank you. You're very kind.
So we'll get started.
Okay.
So yeah, Steve, tell us how you came to be here at inewsource.
All right. Well, many people who are following or watching might know that I was at the Union Tribune here in San Diego for about 23 years. And I took the buyout in 23 and then was offered the job here a few months later at inewsource. And it has been a lot of fun joining the team and working with so much talent. I took one of the things I told inewsource, I told you, Jamie, that I wanted to do this type of stuff when I came here, right? Not just editorial cartoons, not just illustration, but um, this kind of form of reporting where you take you take facts and you take information and you find a new and fresh way of presenting it to the news consumer, you know, and I did a couple projects like this at the Union Tribune. One was called Street Art, and there's a piece of art there on the screen from Street Art, where I would go around the city of San Diego drawing homeless people. I'd ask for their permission if I could draw them and ask them questions about their lives, and that was fascinating. I didn't want to do it at first. It was one of those things, you come up with the idea to do it and you bounce it off your boss, your editor, and you know, they give you the green light and you're kind of thinking it through and it seems good. But then on the day that it's time to start, you know, you have to like leave your office and go walk around and find homeless people and talk to them. And so I did not want to do it. But it got to the point where I came to enjoy it because these people they were so kind and nice and I don't know, relatable almost. You know, they definitely had problems. I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat it. Most of them definitely had all kinds of problems. But it's just interesting how once you put yourself out there and try to connect with someone on a human level, how much they open up. So I think that that strategy worked because there was just like a lot of humanity we were able to kind of present with that project. We did the same thing with migrants in a project called Drawn to America. And I really enjoyed those projects. They were a lot of work, but I enjoyed them. So I came to inewsource here and I told you that I wanted to do something on fentanyl. And I kind of started in pretty soon after I got here.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember the first conversation that we had before you had even gotten here, we were talking about you doing illustrations and
Yeah.
you did that lovely illustration of the badge, the
Yeah.
Border Patrol badge.
With the 100-mile radius of authority that Border Patrol agents have into
Right.
the US, you know. Yeah, that was I think the first thing I did for inewsource.
It was.
Yeah.
It was the first thing. And it was, you know, a lot of the stories that we do, some of the stories that we do are very difficult to illustrate through photographs. And we wrote a story about Border Patrol's authority and power within 100 miles of any international border. And so I talked to Steve about what if we did you know, the wall and casting a shadow over a map of San Diego, and he comes back with this beautiful image of a badge, which is just so much more you know, poignant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
I love that. I love doing that because I really feel like I'm helping. You know, like we don't have the photos to go with this story to add visual to this story. You know, what can you come up with? So I just I enjoyed that creative challenge of helping out like that.
Right. And here's another project that you did that's a little bit different than traditional illustrations. You want to talk about this one?
Yeah, so this is I would call this illustrated reporting, and our great reporter Sophia wrote this. It's called By Appointment Only, and it chronicled this family from Mexico, and Anna, we called her, was the kind of the protagonist of the story, and she and her family were threatened by criminal gang activity down in Mexico and had to get up here, but there was all kinds of bureaucratic red tape. Here's a couple pieces from this project. I think there's like 15 slides, maybe 12 to 15 slides that we did to tell this story. And you know, you could really get in, I'm a cartoonist, but these aren't really cartoony, or you don't want them to be too cartoony because you want the art, the tone of the art to fit the subject matter. And this is really heavy stuff here, you know. So limited color palette, you know, lots of blacks, kind of a realistic art style. And I did this while I was doing fentanyl. But it kind of was like the first bit of illustrated reporting I had done for us here at inewsource.
And I think you turned it around. I remember having a
It-
conversation and
I was
you're like, I
trying,
don't know that I can do it.
yeah, yeah.
And then you said, how about 8? How about 8 panels? And then I said, yeah, that would be great. And then you said, how about 12?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's do it.
Yeah, and it may have even stretched to 15 because I just needed the real estate to tell the story. But that's one of the cool things about digital, right? Is if you have to go to 12, 15, 20 slides, you can to
Right.
tell your story. Where you couldn't do that in the old print days.
Alright.
So then I was working on that as I was trying to finish fentanyl. So I was like very, very busy in the fall. And this is the first slide from our fentanyl project. And I did not think that this fentanyl project was going to be as big as it was. It ended up being like over 40, almost 50 slides. And I was kind of thinking somewhere in the 20 range. But I had help from some colleagues, including you and including J.R. Martinez, who's here tonight with us, and including Giovanni with his help with the product development, with the the user experience, helping us get this thing online. Giovanni was great with that.
Yeah, and we can have, Will, if you can drop the project link in the chat, that'd be great. So tell us, why fentanyl? Why that topic?
Yeah.
Why did you pick this as something you wanted to do a deep dive into?
I wanted to do something on an important topic that was getting a lot of talk, and that fentanyl fit that bill. I wanted to do something that was that was impacting San Diego, or had a strong San Diego connection, and fentanyl also fit that bill. San Diego and Tucson are the two big ports of entry for fentanyl into the United States. And I knew that, and the other thing about fentanyl is, for the past 10 years, I've been hearing about these numbers, because we all read the news, we all follow the news, and you hear about these numbers. And I remember when it was staggering, when like 20 or 30,000 people a year were dying. And now the past couple of years, it's been over 70,000. And if you stop and think about that, it's really staggering. So that's one of the things that I wanted to do, is I wanted to kind of, I don't know, shock people, or kind of grab them by the collar and say 70,000 people a year from something that's so senseless, and something that we could stop, or at least greatly reduce if we try a little harder, So that was one of the purposes. And then also, this is affecting a lot. Fentanyl is affecting all swaths of life. All people who are rich, people who are very poor, homeless people, rock stars. But it's really sad to see. It's sad when anybody dies. Every life is of value. But these young people who are losing, who are just taking things that they shouldn't, or things that a friend tells them to, or something that they're given, or maybe they're hooked on painkillers, and they take one that's laced with fentanyl. But these young people and their parents are just completely devastated, and it really hit me with these interviews that I did with victims' families. So I wanted to do something in this format because I wanted young people to see it, and when I say young people, I don't know, 15 to 35, something like that. And I knew that they weren't reading, for the most part, long form investigative pieces. So I thought that this would be one way that I could help with the awareness factor.
Right, and just as a segue, we are, trying to get this project out beyond the digital space. I've been talking with behavioral health organizations, and educators and in local school districts to try to get Steve into those spaces and also to have them share the project. The DEA has an education arm aimed at educating youth about the dangers of fentanyl overdose and drug overdoses generally, and they posted it on their website. So that's a pretty great, I think, differentiation between us and what maybe traditional media outlets do. We're very much about trying to engage community organizations to spread the word and get this in front of audiences that may not be news consumers at all. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think there are some slides here from the project, but do you
Yeah.
want to talk about some of the creative choices that you made?
Oh, yeah, well, we wanted to use blue and black, you know, because this is a very serious topic. Black kind of has that gravitas visually, and then blue we chose was kind of the color of a lot of the fentanyl pills. Oh, look at those handsome
That
people.
lovely photo.
That that photo. There's something about that photo that drives me nuts. I don't know what.
We took about 8 takes.
Yeah,
We finally had to decide on one.
yeah.
So yes.
But anyway, so that's the crew that kind of helped put this project together. JR, myself, Jamie, and then Giovanni over on the right. So I spent the better part of a year researching, collecting data, interviewing people, and then then drawing this thing. And the most of the art, I would say like 80% of the art was done the last 2 or 3 months of the year. And it was, you know, a lot of images like this. You know, according to the DEA, 50 to 60% of counterfeit pills contain a lethal amount of fentanyl, and taking one is like playing Russian roulette with 3 bullets. The DEA, by the way, was fantastic. There's a public outreach person there named Kelly McKay, who could not have been more helpful. And I also talked to agents there. I talked to chemists, and it was really, really eye-opening and informative. The sheriff department too was great too, San Diego County Sheriff. 74,000 people, over 74,000 people died in 2023 from fentanyl in the US. That's from the CDC. So if you combined a full Snapdragon Stadium and a full Petco, that's about that number. It's about 74,700 people. So imagine those 2 stadiums, you know, totally filled with people. And if you check this project out online, we have a cool slider where you slide it across the 2 stadiums, and they go from full to empty. So that's a good feature that Giovanni came up with. That just kind of, I don't know. It's just it just reminds you of why digital is so cool. That you could do things like that to get that image to stick in people's brains more easily, and you know, more memorably than if it was just print. I was going to say something else about this slide. It took a long time to draw with all those people. But anyway, okay, yes. Let's see, next one. Okay, so this is Carolyn, and Carolyn lost her daughter Cassie to fentanyl. And she, like a couple moms that I talked to, has become a real force of nature advocate in terms of fentanyl awareness. And one of her recent projects was to get Cassie's photo and the photos of many other local fentanyl victims and put it on a billboard. And they've done that in a couple places in the county. Just to kind of memorialize their loved ones and to raise awareness. So yeah, I met with Caroline at least once. I talked to her several times on the phone, but she's a wonderful woman and a very strong woman. There's her daughter Cassie over there on the left. It was just heartbreaking to talk to all these parents. There's Jeff down there on the bottom. He's from Carlsbad. Alex was from Encinitas. Eric Gonzalez, he lived in the Poway area, and then Isabella lived in the San Diego area. But they were just all these bright lights in their communities and their families with so they were all, you know, all of these people here on this page were these charismatic, bright, wonderful, warm people that were just I mean, some of them, a couple of them had addiction issues, but a couple of them it was just like the first time they tried anything and it killed them. The drug.
Terrifying.
Yeah, it really is terrifying.
You don't have the slide in here, I don't think, but the graph that shows drug overdoses over time and how precipitously they rise once fentanyl gets on the scene.
Yeah.
We were looking through the data, and fentanyl is by large driving overdose deaths. It's often mixed with other drugs, but it just reacts so quickly and is so lethal in such smaller amounts that it's just the line just shoots right up. So
Yeah,
it really is a problem. Huge problem.
yeah, big time. And I tell my kids and everyone I know, of course, don't try anything. Never take anything that anyone gives you, but also don't leave a drink out anywhere. You know, if you go to the bathroom, you just like leave a can or a bottle or a cup in an open party. That's very dangerous these days. Don't do that. Don't take even anything that you think might be candy from someone, you know, at a party. Hey, you want some Skittles? A cop just told me last week, a San Diego San Diego Police Department sergeant told me that some teenage girls in San Diego gave some candy that looked like Skittles that were laced with fentanyl to a 10 or 11-year-old girl. It just as a joke. And this girl went as she overdosed, and the paramedics got there just in time and brought her back and saved her life. But anyway,
so before we do that, anything
Yeah.
surprising about the reporting that you learned?
Yeah, there were a couple things. It was amazing. I went to this DEA facility, the chemistry facility where their chemists are, where it was a lab, and that's in North County, and just the bags of fentanyl and meth everywhere. But it's just mind blowing how much of this stuff comes into the country. One of the surprising things was that Americans are so responsible for bringing it in here. A lot of people will try to tell you that it's migrants. Migrants bring in fentanyl sometimes, but the real problem are drug mules. Again, a lot of times they're American, and just the clever ways that the cartels sneak it through the ports, you know, in cars and trucks and you know, shipments of this or that. You know?
And yeah, we've written about blind mule trafficking too, just people who are unsuspecting. And of course, the authorities catch them and they think, well, that's a convenient excuse for you. You didn't know. But it happens.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty interesting too. As we were doing this project, I think we misspelled naloxone probably 20 times.
I know it's a
Back and
tricky
forth.
word, but it's an important drug in this conversation.
Yeah, and you learned something about it too, right?
Right, that it's so effective in reversing an opioid overdose, and that the brand name is called Narcan. Right, the drug is naloxone. It's Narcan is administered nasally, or you know, through a nasal spray. But there's also there's another drug out there actually made here in San Diego, in Carlsbad, called CM High. CM High. by ZMI Pharmaceutical, and that is administered through like a needle, like an EpiPen. Okay, because sometimes someone is overdosing and there's like, foam or mucus or something, and they can't get that nasal spray to them. So they have to kind of get it into their body quickly, the naloxone. And it gives them a little bit of a stronger dose than the spray. But anyway, ZM High is here in San Diego. It's kind of it's gaining traction. People are seeing that maybe there could be two forms of two ways to get naloxone to people.
You were telling me some kind of gross facts about what happens when you overdose from fentanyl, and
It could be, yeah, it not always, but it could be very just the way the body reacts to that, because there's vomit and there's like foaming and stuff, and it's tough to get that spray into the nose. But I think that there might be two or a couple representatives from ZMI Pharmaceuticals in Carlsbad watching or on the Zoom, and if those gentlemen wanted to put something in the chat to let people know about their product, they can, because any tool out there that first responders and average people can have access to help save lives is important.
yeah, and you met Chris Destro. You met him at an event where
Yeah,
law enforcement and health professionals were talking about the administration of that
right,
drug.
right, and how sometimes it's important to just go right through the clothes. Or if someone's like some kind of first responder is wearing some kind of a hazmat suit,
Yeah,
and their face is covered, but they get exposed to fentanyl, somehow they breathe it in. You don't have time to take the hat off and everything, the helmet or the protective headgear and stuff. So you just, got to get it into them right through their clothes with the pen.
well, great.
Uh-huh.
So I think we can turn to Tim's story
Yes.
now. And Tim, so great to have you. If you can turn your video on so everyone can see you. There's Tim. Yay.
Hey
Hi,
there.
Tim.
Hey, Tim.
Hello,
So,
hello.
so Tim was very, very gracious to tell his stories. He was he's a great guy. Tim, how old are you?
25.
Okay, 25. And I met Tim through his mom, and I was alerted to her because one of our board members, Karen Winter, here at inewsource, told me about a Rotary presentation on fentanyl. The downtown Club 33 Rotary. Is that what it's called? Club 33? That's at Disneyland. Isn't that a restaurant at Disneyland or something? But anyway, Tim's mom was there talking about your experience. And Karen suggested I reached out to your mom. So I did. And she said, yeah, Tim would be happy to tell his story.
hmm
And that was 8-9 months ago. But it was not long after you had your harrowing overdose in February of last year, right?
Right, yeah, February 25th.
Yeah, so we just hit the 1 year anniversary of that.
Yeah.
So for people who haven't read this series, Tim, tell us quickly kind of about that day, and kind of maybe what led you up to it. You had been experimenting with pills for several years up until that happened, right?
Right, yeah. So yeah, it kind of goes back to high school, when I was first diving into that stuff to, kind of cope with some depression and anxiety that was going on. Kind of started off with Xanax, and then that's kind of when at least for me, I noticed that's when I first noticed, the amount of fentanyl that was going on, because in 2015, and beginning of 2016, I was taking real Xanax, and then by the end of 2017, every one that I was getting was pressed with fentanyl. Um, But yeah, so that kind of continued throughout high school. After I graduated, I joined the army, so I was able to get away from that stuff for, 3.5 years, which was great, and I'm super thankful for. And then I got home and, kind of lost that sense of purpose that you get from being in the army. You're doing something bigger than yourself, and I got back and that wasn't part of my life anymore. So, I fell into this deep depression and kind of one day my friend was just like, "Hey, I got a connect for, real oxy," which at this point, in time was super rare, and I was kind of very skeptical about it because I lost my best friend Eli Belomo to fentanyl and when I was away in the army. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And that's kind of where it all started back up again. They were real, so I was like, okay, if they're, as long as they're real, I'm good with it. And, it's helping, ease the thoughts in my brain. Um, and so got back into that. I started doing benzos again, mixing it all with drinking and smoking too, everything that you shouldn't do. Um, and that kind of led up to this point where February last year, me and a couple of my buddies were going, really hard with, the pills. And so me and my buddy were like, hey, let's take a trip down to Mexico, let's go stock up on some benzos. And so we went down there, bought hundreds of pills. And then we asked the pharmacist, we were like, hey, do you guys have any oxy or, hydrocodone or anything like that? And the first time we went down there, they actually said no, but come back in a week. We're getting a shipment in a week. And as soon as you hear that, you should, it's suspect, when you hear that, at least for me, but we weren't in our right minds, so we're like, all right, let's come back next week. So we went back next week, bought a bunch of more benzos, and then they had the oxys this time
And
and the hydros.
Tim, you said it's they're like $1 each, roughly, these pills, right? Down.
If you pay in peso, they're probably a little bit more than that. But we weren't paying in pesos, like, because we didn't go to the exchange or anything. So I'm pretty sure they were scamming us because whenever they were doing the kind of like translating from pesos to American money, it ended up being actually like almost $1 a milligram. But we didn't think of anything out of the time, like once I got back, I was like, okay, we were getting upcharged for those. But yeah, they're much cheaper down there for sure if you're going and paying in pesos.
Because you've seen pills, so you could get like an oxy, a fake oxy down there in the buck or two range, right?
Yeah, they're pretty
Up
cheap,
here,
yeah.
like up here, what would you see the street value of those up here be in
Um,
States?
if they're trying to, sell them to you as like saying they're real, they could easily go for, $1 a milligram. So if you're getting a 30 milligram Percocet, it's gonna be $30. For me, I was getting real oxy at the times, and I was paying up to 50 bucks for one pill at a point for those, just because of, they were real and I needed them. But
But how
um
could you tell? How could you tell they're real?
so Oxy has like this, you get kind of get used to the specific taste that, these chemicals have. And then, fentanyl kind of has a totally different taste to it. But then also I would test them out, I would break up just a tiny bit off of the pill and then snort it. And if I didn't get, really messed up right away, then I knew that, it was real.
But that seems like a very risky way to test something, right? You
Yeah,
don't
it is for sure.
recommend people testing drugs that way, right?
Absolutely not. No, if you have access to them, fentanyl test strips, and you can get those for free, um, from what I've heard, as well as the naloxone. And actually, the first time I did get these real ones, from the guy we were getting from. I had him snort a whole pill in front of me because he was confident in it, you know. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, I think I'm good.
And so, okay, you're at the pharmacy down there, and does the second time you go back, and
Mhm.
does this pharmacist or the clerk, do they have any problem selling to guys from America hundreds and hundreds of pills that are probably laced with fentanyl?
No, yeah, no problem at all. They
No warnings
said
or anything?
nope, they're like, yeah, if you need some oxy, we'll go to the back and they went to the back and just brought it out in a little baggie. Um and you know, they just sell it to you right there and they don't even think twice about it, you know. Um Kind of like I told you before, with the at least from my um what I've seen, you know, is that they don't sell them that easily to the locals, at least, you know, because I was at my old work, I was seeing this woman from she was a local in Tijuana, you know, I was having her bring me some stuff from over the border and I asked her to get me some oxy and then they told her that it's illegal to sell there at multiple pharmacies. And then when we went down there, multiple pharmacies were offering it up to us. So yeah,
Okay. That's an interesting little anecdote. Okay, so you guys take that big purchase of pills without incident. You come back to Vista, and then the two of you split a pill, right? You and your friends.
well, so actually, we get back to Vista, we get back to you know, the apartment I was staying in. And I actually took three whole hydrocodons that we had gotten. So we had gotten oxys and then also Norcos, which are 10 milligram hydrocodons. Um, and I took three of those, and for the longest time I've been, you know, telling myself that I must have forgotten that they were laced with fentanyl, because there's no way in my right mind I would take three whole ones if I knew they were laced, you know. And then recently, my buddy, he told me, he's like, no, like we convinced ourselves in Mexico that the hydros were real and the oxys were the ones that were laced. And, you know, they both ended up being heavily laced. So.
Okay, so again, for people who haven't read, this is back at the apartment, and you both pass out.
Yes, yeah. So we both pass out. My buddy's sitting on, you know, my chair at my gaming desk, and he happens to wake up out of a fent nod, you know, it's called kind of like falling out, is uh what it's called, is when you know, you just nod off the fent, and it's extremely hard to kind of wake up out of that until, like, you know, you've gotten your rest or the fentanyl's done, you know, taking its course. But he happened to wake up, and he saw me laying there on the bed. And from what he told me, I was looking, you know, blue and my lips were purple. And so he got up and got my roommate, who was in the other room, and he was like, "Yo, I think Tim just overdosed. I think we need to call the cops." And so they kind of got together, they called the cops, and you know, so first responders were able to get there just in time. They told me, you know, after I'd gone out of hospital, that another 5 minutes, and I wouldn't have been here. So,
Yeah.
you know, they made it just in time, and while they were on their way, they were on the phone with my roommate, and they were having him do CPR on me because I wasn't breathing, or my shallows were like really, really deep, or my breath was really deep. Um,
And
and
basically, what fentanyl does, as some people know, is it makes your brain like forget how to breathe, right? Forget
mm,
how to tell your lungs how to breathe,
right,
right?
yeah, yeah, and so he was doing CPR on me, and then the first responders got there, you know, and they were able to hit me with Narcan. Um, and after that, they took me to the hospital, and I'm not sure at what point during this um, period, but I went into septic shock. You know, my organs started shutting down, and then I also aspirated. You know, so I breathed in some of my own gunk or whatever it was, and so I got pneumonia as well. So I was in the ICU for 4 days, and then once I was, once my blood pressure, I think, was back to normal because my blood pressure was really low, they released me into the normal hospital wing, and then I spent 3 days there, and then was able to leave after that.
Amazing. It is amazing. I mean, it really is a miracle that your roommate woke up in time and was
Yeah,
able to get you help.
yeah,
Um,
100%.
uh, yeah, there's a couple slides here of you, and, I don't know, can we see these now, or are we just, we
Yeah.
can see them? Yeah,
Yeah, I
so
can see.
there's the trip down to Rosarito with the pharmacy, and there's you and your friend going to get the pills down there. And here you are. This is when I think this slide is this your first visit where you threw up in the sink and you noticed your stomach?
Um, so that was the second visit. Because that after Yeah, that was the second visit because after the night, so during that night, that's when we tested out the oxys, and we realized immediately we split, a 30 milligram one. I usually have to take 60 milligrams to 80 of real oxy to get my desired high. And so immediately we knew like, we're way too high for this to be real. So we knew it was pressed with fentanyl. And then that next morning, I woke up and yeah, I was throwing up black liquid. We had no idea what that meant at the time. And then kind of after Mexico, I had looked it up what black liquid, throw up means, and it means that you have something called coffee ground vomitis, which is, bleeding in the stomach, which can lead you to go septic if it continues. And so that could have played a part in my when I went into septic shock as well after the OD. I'm not sure, but
Mhm. And there's the paramedics reviving you. Oh, and now though it's been a year and you have managed to stay clean, right?
yep.
And
I have in a little over 2 weeks. I'll have 1 year, which is I'm pretty happy about.
that's
Congrats.
fantastic. And what no, so you've told me that you want to take this experience, this thing that happened to you, and kind of your past experience with substance abuse, and you want to help people. You know,
Yes.
what's your dream job right now in San Diego? What would you like to do?
So right now I've been trying to get into a position as a peer support specialist, that is someone who kind of has lived experience with either mental health or a substance abuse problem or both. And you pretty much, use your experience to kind of be there for people as someone that they can come to talk to, they can relate to you, and you can kind of use your experience, give them advice, if they need it, and to give them some kind of hope, that it is possible to live a sober life, you know even if you got those mental illnesses or whatever it may be, that it's making it seem impossible that a sober life is possible because you just want to drown out those thoughts, so.
And you've told me this too, Tim, and it's been repeatedly echoed by all the parents who have lost loved ones that I've talked to, and that is the importance of the crowd that the individual surrounds themselves with, right?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, for
so
sure. I had
yeah,
to when after I got out of the hospital, I kind of uh left my friend group. I didn't really hang out or, go out or anything like that for like 8 months. I was pretty much just focusing on, getting back into the gym, which is one of my favorite hobbies. I was doing, a lot of video gaming, which I love. Pretty much doing things that kept me busy and kept me, fulfilled enough to be able to just focus on staying sober, not going out, not doing anything because I know it was going to put me in a risky situation. So yeah, I pretty much left my friend group for about 8 months and then kind of started talking to them again.
Tim, I have a question, but I also want to say thank you to your parents for joining us. They put some messages in the chat. So that's
Yes,
so
my
great
brother is here.
with
That's great.
us. We have a great question for you. It's frustrating to hear all this and trying to think of solutions. Just Say No and other programs don't seem to be working. Do you have any suggestions? I think beyond the sort of one-on-one outreach you're talking about, do you have any suggestions about how to reach parents? Anything you can recommend on how to stop this from happening?
I think fear is something that kind of holds you back from opening up, right, and talking to people about what's going on in your life. And you kind of just have to, I mean, for me at least, anytime I was going to, my talk to my parents or anything, I just had to let go of that fear that, I was gonna, get judged, get in trouble, whatever it may be, and just know that they want what's best for me. And so that no matter what is going on in my life, that they can help me get through whatever I need to, because having someone there, whether it's a best friend, whether it's a family member, can be, the difference between life and death. And so, yeah.
Thank you, Tim, so much for joining us tonight. I don't want to sound too old, but I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. It means a lot. And thank you guys for having me as well. It's been a pleasure.
Definitely don't go far because we're going to open it up for Q&A in just a second, and I'm sure there might be some other questions for you. So
Okay,
thank you
sounds good.
for being with us. So we have 10 minutes left, and Steve and I are both parents, so we like to do things on time. Right.
Right.
So I think we have a special treat for you tonight, and Steve is going to do a demonstration and talk a little bit about how he does his work. But if you want to go ahead and put some questions in the chat, we can get him going and then get some questions in the chat, and we can talk while he's drawing for us. And I thought it might be fun if the folks in the audience tell us what you would like Steve to draw. He
Oh.
says he has veto power.
Oh, yeah. You really are putting that out there? Well, you be prepared. We're gonna get some crazy requests, but yes, I'll draw what I can. I'll start with something kind of benign and pleasant. How about that?
That sounds good.
All right, let's see if I go here. Can people see this?
Oh, that's, we have
Oh, thank you.
tech support on its way.
Thank you.
And yeah, any questions for Steve or Tim, drop them in the chat.
All right. So I used to use pen and ink and paper, but now I'm all digital, Jamie. Did you know that?
I knew that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's oh, it's great. I save hundreds of dollars a year at the art supply store with being digital. And one of the keys to drawing digitally is this iPad Pro. Yeah. So here's this is, you could probably see now, this is Will. That's not JD Vance, that is Will, who helped us here. And I do love drawing caricatures. It's a fun part of the job of being a cartoonist. But what's great about this iPad, really quickly, I'll show you. So if you wanted to, for instance, if you wanted to, add a layer, you could do it very easily and then add color to that layer. See this? Look at this. Now we could make Will's nose a little bit pinkish, like he has a flu. It's flu season, right? Or let's say that his mom, during the holidays, she bought him a blue sweater, right? And I don't need to get all kinds of markers or pastels to do it. Boom, instant. Okay. So,
You have a request when you're ready.
yes.
Yes, so draw something that symbolizes recovery and also draw a face of hope. Those are 2 requests.
Okay,
Thought I'd
symbolizes
give you
recovery.
both of them.
Yeah, okay. All right, very, very interesting.
While he's working on that, I would love if everyone would share in the chat your background. Are you an educator? Are you in behavioral health? Etc. I meant to do that at the top. Apologies. So if you could do that now, that would be great. And thank you for all the comments in the chat as well.
So, I did the whole fentanyl series on this iPad, and it did make things very, very easy because I was able to just draw and then get my editor Jamie here the images quickly, and it did make things a lot more streamlined than if you're dealing with big sheets of paper that you have to transport or transmit. Let's see what else. Any other questions or comments? This is something that represents, to me, hope anyway. So just keep watching, and the drawing will materialize. I still do editorial cartoon illustrations for inewsource, and you go to inewsource.org, you'll be able to see those.
And
I-
also, we're getting a lot of comments, just so you know, Steve, we're getting a lot of comments about where people are coming from joining us tonight, but not any questions yet. So make sure you drop your questions in the chat. But now is also a really great time to talk about the ways that you can experience Steve's work. He has a newsletter that goes out called Drawing Conclusions. And he also has a Substack called Cartoonish. And can you talk a little bit about the difference between those?
Yeah, cartoonishness is more of my editorial cartoons. And my Drawing Conclusions is a newsletter that goes out that highlights a lot of the local work that I do here at inewsource. The talks that I give, appearances, illustrations that I do on local stories, and so on. So yeah, I'm very busy with newsletters, but it's fun to kind of get the word out.
And your caption contest?
Oh, yes, the caption contest. Yes, the caption contest finds its way into both. So yeah, we still do the caption contest. So yeah, by signing up for those, you will have access to all that hijinks.
And Will, I guess, can you drop those in the chat, or can you send those links to folks after the,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So we will make sure you get links to signing up for those newsletters.
Yeah. So this is a sunrise. I thought that this sums up Tim's life right now. It's a new beginning, and he's making changes, and he's got this nice, bright future ahead of him with the support of his friends and family, and a will to, just a will to stay strong and sober. So,
And I'll just say, Cliff, thank you for the comment. I see your interest in learning more about the documenters. Just quickly, the documenters is a program that was started with the City Bureau in Chicago. And it was out of a recognition that there's just so much news that isn't getting covered. The major news networks in any city will all sort of gravitate toward the biggest stories. But that leaves so many public agencies across any community uncovered. And so they launched the documenters to get sort of partner with community members. to bring news to their communities and not the broad city, but down to the block and what's happening in neighborhoods. And so our documentaries program just had a birthday. We've had it here for more than a year, but it's still fairly new. And we have documenters who are covering the South Bay. We're working with universities as well. And it's really helping us surface news tips that are important to readers. And we're finding that readers are, it's resonating with readers when we write about, the subcommittee that's dealing with an industrial project, or the Brown Act violations, Cliff, as you mentioned. And we're actually finding that when we write about the Brown Act violations, these officials a lot of times are volunteers at some of these smaller boards. They step up and they realize that we're watching, and then they respond more responsibly. So there's a bit of educating public officials on the Brown Act too. So thank you for that comment, Cliff, and I will make note of your contact information and we'll reach out. You see, I have a couple other commenters. We have some documenters in the house. Thank you for joining us, Simon.
Thank you. There's also a Q&A, Jamie.
Oh, okay. Hold on a second. Tech support. Here we go. Okay. Let's see. We have not. So Pamela asked a question about have we considered a follow-up story to the source of fentanyl in Arizona? She recently left her hometown of San Diego for the West Valley, and this is where fentanyl enters the U.S. en masse. We have not considered doing a follow-up on it in Arizona, but Steve and I, this project has sort of opened our eyes to the possibility of partnering with news outlets in other communities to do broader scale works. So we're actually in talk with some of the major dailies in California about partnering and maybe talking before we actually produce this work so that we can distribute it to a much wider audience and also, collaborate with other newsrooms on surfacing these issues. So that's a great idea. This project very much focused on San Diego, but we're definitely interested in using this type of art form to expand it. So we'll keep Arizona in mind.
Mm-hmm. I'm drawing myself, by the way, because I didn't want to offend anyone in this room needlessly. So I figure if I did a caricature of myself, thoughtfully looking, well, I really look old with those glasses. Like, look at me. There.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
It's okay. It's okay for
You have more
2
hair.
minutes.
You
I
have
do.
more hair.
Thank you. I'm gonna
You
add more
certainly-
hair. I'm gonna add a little more hair. No, I'm usually best at drawing presidents, but I don't want to offend anyone, so I'm not gonna draw any presidents. All right. I'll draw one president. I'll quickly draw one president.
And we are at 7:01. So
Oh, it's over. Have people done?
You can, if folks would like to hang out, you certainly can. For those of you who are ready to move on with your evening, thank you so much for joining. And again, we will definitely let you know how to get on Steve's email lists. And please go to inewsource.org if you don't know us already and check out our work. Thank you so much.